Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Jai. So we'll start with our traditional bhajan before we start our classes. I'm sure you all know it, so if you would like to join me as a chorus. Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Vihari. Jaya
ऐसी भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी श्री प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, रामचर हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य नित्यानंद श्यामैत राधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंद राधा कुंद गिरिगोवर्धन की जय। श्री गंगामयी की जय, मनमयी की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, तुलसी देवी की जय, श्री मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय, श्री नवदीप गोदान की जय, श्री जगन्नाथ धाम की जय, धाम की जय, श्री शिवनिताय की जय, श्री श्रीराधा तीर्थोर गोपीनाथ की जय, श्री जगन्नाथ श्री बलदेव श्रीमती सुभद्रा महारानी की जय, सामवेद भक्तवृंद की जय। जय गौर प्रेमानंदी हरि हरि बोल, हर हर महादेव। कृष्ण कृष्ण नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskrityam naram jaivam narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udiraye. Hare Krishna. So, as was announced, today we're celebrating the auspicious occasion of Shivaratri. Even though it happened, according to our calendar, we try to be very precise. So according to the Vaishnava calendar, Shivaratri was yesterday. But I think others celebrated it on Friday. So they might have been counting the phases of the moon. But it's a more precise science than just counting days after Amavasya or full moon, depending on what festival or what auspicious day you're following. So according to our calendar, it was yesterday. So as the announcement mentioned, we are today honoring Lord Shiva, who is known as the greatest Vaishnava. So how do we know that? So the author of the Vedas is Srila Vyasadeva. Srila Vyasadev's guru is Narad Muni. So Narad Muni instructed Srila Vyasadeva from what he heard from his father, Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma received this message from Garbhodakashayi Vishnu through the medium of his heart. So that's how this message is handed down in a disciplic succession from guru to disciple all the way down. So Srila Vyasadeva, after he had completed the Vedas and the Mahabharata, he was feeling, Narad Muni came to visit him, and he was feeling a little despondent. So Narad Muni asked him, he said, why are you feeling this way? You have just finished this massive work of putting all of our Vedic teachings and tradition in writing. So prior to 5,000 years ago, which is the beginning of Kali Yuga, this message was handed down, word of mouth, from guru to disciple. But in this age of Kali, there was a broken chain. The message got lost. So it was reintroduced by Lord Krishna when he appeared, and an avatar of Lord Krishna known as Srila Vyasadeva actually came to write the Vedas. So he said to Narad Muni, yes, I'm feeling a little bit despondent. And Narad Muni said, so tell me why are you feeling that way? And he said, well, I've done all of this work, but I felt that I haven't really glorified the Supreme Lord. So then Narad Muni asked him to summarize the entire Vedas. And he summarized it into the Bhagavad Puran, or Srimad Bhagavatam. So you might have seen we have this book. This is actually 1/3 of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. It comes in 12 cantos, and it's a must read. If one wants to exit this material world and go to Vaikuntha or Goloka Vrindavan at the end of their life, this is your manual, along with Guru and Sadhu. Without reading this manual and without following Guru and Sadhu, we might have a difficult time getting there. So, Srila Vyasadeva summarized the entire Vedas into the Srimad Bhagavatam, or the Bhagavad Puran. And in the 12, I'm not going to read from this volume today, but I wanted to quote one verse. It's found in the 12th canto, the 13th chapter. So this is the very last chapter. There are 18,000 shlokas in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Actually, in all of the Vedic scriptures, there is a total of 525,000 shlokas.
But in the 13th chapter of the 12th canto is a summary. So the Srimad Bhagavatam is a summary of the Vedas, and this last chapter is a summary of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's like the most sweetest part, right? When we go to the supermarket to buy fruits, we always look for the ones that are the ripest. Why? Because the riper the fruit, the sweeter it is, right? We don't want to eat sour fruits. Sometimes an orange looks nice and orange on the outside, but when you cut it up and you taste it, it's very sour because they harvested when it wasn't fully mature. So the Srimad Bhagavatam is considered to be the mature, ripened fruit of Vedic knowledge. So in this 13th chapter, the speaker of this particular verse that I will quote is Srila Sutta Goswami. Sutta Goswami was sitting in an august assembly of thousands of sages who had descended to a place called Naimisharanya, which today we can find, I think it's in UP. Naimisharanya is in UP. And so these sages came from all over the universe to this place to hear Srimad Bhagavatam spoken by Srila Sutta Goswami. So it's described in our scriptures that if you look at a wheel, the middle of a wheel is called a hub, right? And that's the main part of that hub. There's some issue with the hub, the whole wheel will kind of fall apart. The spokes will come off, when you try to drive or ride it. If it's you think of a bicycle, it has the hub and it has all the spokes, and the hub is broken, the whole wheel will just flatten and you're not going anywhere. So Naimisharanya is considered to be the center or the hub of the universe. So this is where all the sages came. Why did they come there? They came there to hear this message. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, you will hear or read of Prahlad Maharaj. And Prahlad Maharaj speaks of 9 processes of bhakti, 9 processes of devotion. And the very first process, which is the most important, is Shravana, which means to hear. So all of these great sages who could travel at the speed of the mind, just think about that. The fastest way one can travel in this universe or anywhere is the speed of the mind. So today, right now, if we're talking about Lord Krishna residing in Goloka Vrindavan, which is, we can't even count how far away that is. But just by speaking and thinking of Lord Krishna, our mind has traveled to that place. And that is the speed. That's how fast one can travel like that, at the speed of the mind. So all of these sages came to hear Srimad Bhagavatam spoken by Sutta Goswami. And Sutta Goswami heard this message. He didn't make up anything. He didn't add anything. He didn't subtract anything. He didn't change anything. He delivered the message as he heard it. So he heard this message from Shukadeva Goswami. And Shukadeva Goswami is the son of Srila Vyasadeva. And as we mentioned earlier, Srila Vyasadeva is a Shaktiyavesha avatar, which means an empowered incarnation of the Supreme Lord, who came specifically for one reason, which is to write the Vedas for all of us unfortunate souls in Kali Yuga, so that we can benefit from reading or hearing it. So after we've read and heard it, what's the next step? Can anyone say? Hello.
Speak.
So after reading it or hearing it, the next step is to contemplate what it means.
If we need clarification, Guru and Sadhu is there to give us clarification. We contemplate, what does this mean? What is Krishna, what is the Lord saying here? And once we come to the conclusion of what is being said, by careful inquiry, not by mental speculation, but by careful inquiry, then the next step after that is to put it in practice. So these books, the Lord came, so many gurus and disciples have spoken, and this message is now here. Srila Prabhupada kindly brought it here, and it's here, ready, and available to us. All we have to do is take it. All we have to do is want to take it. Right? Not just taking it, but want to take it. Because if we want to take it, then we will benefit from it. But if somebody just give us and we take it and we're a little bit lackadaisical or whatever that word is, and we kind of glance through it, we won't be making any spiritual progress. And I'm sure everyone here does not want to stay in this material world. No one. I've never met a person yet. Anybody you ask, where would you like to go at the end of this life? And everybody will say, heaven. I've never met one person yet that says, I want to go to hell. They might tell you to go to hell, but they don't want to go to hell themselves. So no one wants to go. But I have some bad news for everyone here. Heaven, as we conceive it, is a place here in this material world called Swargaloka. But Swargaloka is very temporary. It's only here for one breath of Mahavishnu. So just think, when we take a breath, how long does that inhale or exhale takes before we have to inhale or exhale again? Maybe about 3 seconds. So 3 seconds of Lord Vishnu is the amount of time that Swargaloka is present. Right? So that's not where we want to go. Where we would like to go is Vaikunta, Goloka Vrindavan. Vaikunta, the word Vaikunta means, Kunta means, does anyone know what Vaikunta means? A place where there are no miseries. Right? Kunta means misery. Vaikunta means no misery. That's where we want to go. Or better yet, Goloka Vrindavan Dham, where we get to see Lord Krishna face to face every single moment. So the choice is up to us. Where do we want to go? So Sutta Goswami says in this shloka, which one? I think it's the 16th verse. Yes, in the 12th canto, the 13th chapter, the 16th verse. If you want, I can read the Sanskrit, but I'll read the English. He says, just as the Ganga is the greatest of all rivers, just as Lord Achyuta is the supreme among deities, and just as Lord Shambhu or Shiva is the greatest of Vaishnavas, so Srimad Bhagavatam is the greatest of all Puranas. So we know there are 18 main Puranas. Srimad Bhagavatam is the crown jewel, if you will, of these Puranas. The Ganga is the greatest river. Why is the Ganga the greatest river? Does anyone know where the source of the Ganga is from? No, that's not the source. The source to earth is Lord Shiva's head, but beyond that, yeah, that's still on earth, but yes. So it's actually coming from the spiritual world. It's actually the perspiration of Mahavishnu. So when Lord Vamandev came as a little dwarf Brahmin, and he asked Bali Maharaj for 3 steps of land, and Bali Maharaj said yes. Unfortunately, Bali Maharaj only had 2 steps to give to him. Because when the Lord expanded himself, he was only able to cover 2 steps of whatever was owned by Bali Maharaj. So the 3rd step was on the head of Bali Maharaj. So I'm sure we would all love to have the Lord put his foot on our head. Have you ever seen pictures of the bottom of the feet of the Lord? There's all kinds of markings. Wouldn't it be nice if one day you wake up and you have all these markings on the top of your head? Wouldn't that be a wonderful thing? So when the Lord took his first step and he reached up, his big toenail pierced. It explains that the universe has a shell. It's made up of 7 layers. And each layer is 10 times thicker than the previous layer. And the Lord reached up above Svargaloka, where Lord Brahma is sitting. And the nail of his big toe pierced a little hole in the universe. And the water from the Karuna ocean, which is the perspiration of Mahavishnu, came through and washed his lotus feet. And then when his lotus feet was washed, he has kumkum on the bottom of his feet, sindur. And when it washed, the water became pink. And then Lord Vishnu came out, and all the devtas, they came out, and they all offer obeisances to the Lord. And Lord Brahma poured some water from his kamandal, this little pot that he carries. It has a little handle on a little spout. So he poured some water to wash the Lord's lotus feet. And so this is way up on the top of this universe. How did the water get beyond that spot? From there onwards, how did the water come? Anyone knows? So the water was carried by the Saptarishis. So we look up in the sky at night and we see the Big Dipper, right? There are 7 stars. So these 7 stars, the predominating deity for each of those 7 stars are 7 rishis. And they have their matted locks, their hair all rolled up. And they carry the water from the lotus feet of the Lord on their matted locks through the universe and deposit it in Svargaloka. And I'm not going to tell you the whole story because it'll take forever. But at some point, that water was needed on earth. Maharaj Bhagirath was trying to liberate some of his foreparents who were burned from the flames. So that information is found in the Srimad Bhagavatam. How many here have Srimad Bhagavatam at home? Okay, so you're going to put your hands down. How many read Srimad Bhagavatam regularly? Like every day maybe? Or at least once a week? So, as I said, this is called the spotless Purana. It's the ripened fruit of Vedic knowledge. And everything that we need to know to release ourselves from this material world is found here. So, don't take my word for it. Take Srila Vyasadev's word for it. Take a read. If you have questions, there are many here who can answer those questions. But take a read, even if it's 1 page every morning before you go to work. We're not saying to read the entire book. One day, I was in a hallway, and there was a student that came, and I offered him a Bhagavad Gita. And when I gave him, no. And I said, why not? He said, I was told that if I pick up the Bhagavad Gita, I shouldn't put it down until I finish reading it. I said, yeah, actually that's a very good thing. But you're a student, so you have other books that you need to read in the interim. But what that really means is not that it'd be great if you can read it all in one sitting, but it doesn't mean that you should not read it. But you should read it. You have time, you're a young man, you've got many years ahead. You can read. Don't be afraid. So sometimes we hear stories and we don't really understand, and we don't take to this message. But anyway, coming back to Srila Sutta Goswami, he mentioned that of all the Vaishnavas, Shambhu is the greatest. This is Lord Shiva. So we might have seen Lord Shiva, he's sitting in Mount Kailash. He has a little wooden thing that he rests his arm on, and he has some beads in his hand, some Rudraksha Mala. Like we have Tulsi Mala, but he has Rudraksha Mala and he's chanting. So who is he meditating on? So he's meditating on Lord Govinda. Lord Brahma we see doing the same thing. He's also meditating. So we understand that there are 4 Vaishnava Sampradayas, or disciplic successions. One is headed by Lakshmi Devi. Another is headed by the 4 Kumars. So we might have seen little sons of Lord Brahma. They're actually very old yogis, but they have the ability to keep themselves looking young and small. They're not doing it for vanity reasons. Like we would put, some makeup there. We see a wrinkle and we put a makeup and it swells up a little bit. Oh, I don't have a wrinkle anymore, right? Or some gray hair show up. You immediately run out to buy some dye and do the thing there. Oh, I'm not gray. I'm not old anymore. I'm young. So I'm not trying to say that about anyone, but I'm just saying that's generally what happened. The advertising industry is very great, and they do a fantastic job. But these sages, they deliberately stunted their growth to remain young, 5 years old, so that they didn't achieve the age of puberty. Because if they achieve the age of puberty, then they will be starting to think of other things. So they didn't want to think, we are all adults here, so we know what those things are. So they don't want to think about that, so they kept themselves very young and innocent. So they're the head of another Vaishnava Sampradaya called the Kumar Sampradaya. And then there's one headed by Lord Brahma, which is actually the Sampradaya that we all belong to, the Brahma Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. And then the 4th Sampradaya is called the Rudra Sampradaya. And this Sampradaya is headed by Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva is an expansion of Sadashiva. Sadashiva has his abode on the edge of the spiritual world. So if you think of the spiritual world as a little bubble, and in one corner of the bubble is the abode of Sadashiva, a quarter of his abode is in the spiritual world, and 75% is in the material world. And Sadashiva is an expansion. So let me go back a little. So Lord Krishna is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam as the source of all incarnations. So the very first expansion of Lord Krishna is Lord Balaram. So we see on this altar Jagannath, Balaram and Subhadra. So Jagannath is Krishna, Balaram is Balaram, and Subhadra is Yogamaya. So Balaram is the very first expansion. Then Balaram expands as Mahasankarshan. And Mahasankarshan expand as, so there's a quadruple expansion called, does anyone know? Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. So from that quadruple expansion of Sankarshan came Mahavishnu and Sadashiva. And so Sadashiva is residing, as I mentioned, and there are other expansions, I won't get into them. You can find that information here. These books are available. There are 2 tables over there. You can speak with those devotees, and they can hook you up if you're interested in learning more. So Sadashiva is, as I mentioned, is sitting in his abode at the edge of the universe, at the edge of the spiritual world. And Mahavishnu is lying in the bottom of the spiritual world, and as he exhales, he's lying in the causal ocean or the Kardano. He's also known as Kardano Dakashayi Vishnu. He's lying in that ocean, and as he exhales, many bubbles are coming out. Oh, this is the spiritual world. Many bubbles like this are coming out of his nostrils and his pores, and each one is a universe. And in each universe, there are guna avatars. So we heard of Rajogun, Tamogun, Satogun. So there's a predominating deity for each guna. They are responsible for that guna. So Lord Vishnu takes the responsibility of Satogun, and Lord Brahma takes the responsibility of Rajogun, and Lord Shiva the responsibility of Tamogun. Now, Lord Shiva's position is actually very different than any others. And so the Lord Krishna, Lord Vishnu, Lord Balaram, all of these are all categorized as Vishnu Tattvas. And all of us are categorized as Jiva Tattvas. But in between the Vishnu Tattva and the Jiva Tattva, there's another Tattva, it's called Shiva Tattva. And this is where Lord Shiva is. So it's explained in the Brahma Samhita that Lord Krishna is like milk and Lord Shiva is like dahi. You can take the milk, put something in it, and it becomes dahi, yogurt. But you can never reconstitute that yogurt back to milk. It wouldn't work, it can't work, because of the touch of something. So when Lord Shiva comes into this universe in the form of Tamogun, and he becomes in touch with Tamogun, he changes a little bit. So he's no longer Vishnu Tattva, but he's not Jiva Tattva either. So he's in his own category, Shiva Tattva. His responsibility is to take souls back to the spiritual world. So there are nice souls that are easy to go back. And then there's some that are not so nice. Have you heard of Hiranyakashipu and Kamsa and all these? They're a little bit different. So you need a special personality to deal with them. And this is where Lord Shiva comes in. So sometimes you might see Lord Shiva, he will rub dust from a crematorium on his body, and he will hang out with ghosts and goblins. There are some people, some living entity, that when they're so sinful that when they leave we're not trying to scare anyone, but when they leave this body, because they were so sinful and unfortunate, they cannot get another material body to continue enjoying this material world. And they remain in their subtle body, or what's called a prate or a ghostly body. And no matter what, they cannot get out of that. So Lord Shiva's job is to try to liberate those personalities. So this is why he hangs out in those places, and he has a very specific task. And like I mentioned earlier, some of them are not nice. So, but he knows how to deal with them. So that is his job. So every universe that pops out of the body of Mahavishnu contains these guna avatars, Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh. Every single universe. In this universe, we came here. We are taking birth here and trying to perfect ourselves. But there are other people taking birth in other universes. And so there's Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh there to take care of them. And so like that, this process goes on. It's like winter, spring, fall, summer. It's like 4 seasons. And like that, there's a continuation, a continuous creation and destruction, creation and destruction. And these are all meant for us to come here and try to live out our fantasies. And once we're satisfied, okay, I've lived my fantasy, or I no longer want this fantasy, then that's when we start trying to figure out, how do I get rid of this fantasy? This is how you get rid of that fantasy. It's all here. And Guru and Sadhu is there to guide. So, I think my time is coming to an end. So, my shadow is here. But this is a vast topic. We can sit here like the sages of Naimisharanya and speak forever, and we will never finish speaking about the glories of the Lord and His associates. But unfortunately, we have to stop. But before I stop, I just want to ask, is there any questions? Are there any questions? Trying to be grammatically correct. Okay, I don't see any hands going up or anything. So thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Mahadev ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi.
Thank you, Bhaktiyoga Prabhu. So we have a special program today. So normally, after the announcements, we would be serving prasadam, but today is what we call an extended program. So prasadam will be served at 8:30. We will have a special bhajan for Lord Shiva, as well as an abhishek ceremony. But before we get on with that, we just have a few housekeeping announcements. So we'd like to thank the